I am, and whatever follows, determines your identity. It acts like a big elastic band. Whenever you push too far beyond what you think you are, it snaps you back, pulls you right back to where you were. But does it need to be that way? Can you overcome this I am and the elastic band? Can you break it and break out?
Welcome to Share.care, an all-inclusive community sharing experience, strength, and hope to create strong, healthy, and inspiring relationships. Share.care communities work toward every individual feeling safe, valued, and heard, free from the threat of danger, pain, or harm. Each episode, founder Damian Andrews explores the principles underpinning Share.care and invites expert special guests to share their knowledge so you can easily reap the benefits so many others experience. You hold the choice to create your future. Let it be with strong, healthy, and inspiring relationships.
Hello and welcome to an on-the-couch episode of the Share.care podcast. Our belief is that global peace starts at home. Feeling safe, valued, and heard gives you a foundation to confidently step out and make the world a happier and safer place for everyone. Because in today's world, it's in your own selfish best interest to help others. Today, we're going to talk about your identity. Whenever you say, I am a runner, I'm a smoker, I'm not a smoker, those kind of things determine who you are, specifically what your beliefs are, and in your unconscious mind, it sets up a number of things which makes your life either very easy or very difficult. And this is where it's really important to understand what it is when we're saying I am. What is that identity? And because it really makes a huge difference to achieving your goals, or achieving what it is that you want in life. You don't want to use the word goals, to have a happy and fulfilling life. And I mean, I think about this, I never really gave it much thought in my younger life. I thought I was pretty cool at a number of things, and other times I felt I was not very good at it. And whatever that foundation was, or whatever that thought process was where I usually would end up. And money's a great example. This happens to a lot of people where they will earn a lot of money and then they'll go beyond their comfort zone or beyond what they believe that they are, their I am, and they will then start doing things to self-sabotage and bring themselves back. And I did this many times throughout my life. When I was younger, I was in the army, and I didn't have an identity that had money. So whenever I got paid, I would just spend it. I would go out with friends, and I was surprised one day. We were at I was driving. We had a few friends in the car, and one of the guys needed to get money out of the bank, and so we pulled over to where an ATM was, and he got out and got money out of the bank. And I'm not sure how it came about, but the receipt that he had from the bank had he put it in the car, and I saw it, and I saw his bank balance, and he had it was about $8,000 in his bank account. And yeah, this is going back probably at least about 30 years ago, if not more. 32, it was probably 31 years ago. And so at that time, we're earning a reasonable amount of money, but $8,000 was a lot of money to have in bank account. I was 19 at the time. And I was shocked by that. I was like, well, how did you get that much money in your bank account, was my thinking. How did you, because I couldn't do that. And the reason I couldn't do it is I was spending it all. But that was my identity. It was, the money comes in, and I spend it, and I have fun with it, and it all goes. And then I wait for my next paycheck, because I usually had spent it all before the end of the pay cycle. I think it was fortnightly, before the end of the pay cycle anyway. And it didn't really matter because at that time I was in the army. I was living on the army base. I didn't have enough money to buy food. The food was provided on the base. The accommodation was provided. But, you paid for it, but it was already taken out of your wage. So that accommodation was already paid for. The food was already paid for. So the money you got, you could just spend on whatever you wanted to spend on it, and we did. We went different places, drank a lot. I was on and off smoking at the time as well. Some money went on that. I wasn't much of a gambler, so I didn't really go to gambling, but it was mostly going out and partying basically, and drinking and having a good time. And that was my identity. That's how I saw it. I am, having fun was my philosophy at that time. And I said it was a big shock to me when one of my friends had $8,000 in his bank account, and another friend went and bought a new car, and he had, the deposit he paid for that was several $1,000s as well, and so it wasn't a deposit. He paid the whole lot. So I think he paid 12 grand for a car, and he paid cash for it, which again was a surprise to me. Like, how did you get this money? And because my identity didn't see myself as accumulating this money. And I know I come back to money a lot, but it is one of the things that we all struggle with. So that was that situation. And then after I'd left the army, uh, I went and worked in the mine sites in North and Western Australia, and I was paid quite a substantial amount of money, and I was able to do a number of different things. And there was a time there I worked out, well, okay, if we want money, you've got to save it and invest it. So I did that because I didn't have to spend it all. My routine for the mine site was left Perth, flew out of Perth on this little dinky plane, and landed, was up in the mine site for 7 weeks. And when this started, they didn't have FPOS up there. So we got, the only thing you could do was go to the pub on the campsite. And they had a small pub where you could go and drink. And there wasn't really anywhere else well, there certainly wasn't anywhere to spend your money. And we got, we didn't have FPOS on the camp at that time. And we got the maximum amount we could get was $100 in cash a week. It was a week? Yeah, a week. So I think I was earning something like $1,200 or $1,300 a week, and getting $100. So after 7 weeks, I've saved up a fair bit of money. And so that process went. I'd come back to a week off. So 7 weeks on, 1 week off. I'd come back to Perth. I'd spend a bit of money and have a bit of fun. But never spent it all, and so this money accumulated to quite a bit, and so I was investing that. And then when I finished working in the mine site, I really didn't have a plan for it. I didn't have so that's a different aspect. We're talking about the goals here now as opposed to your identity. I didn't really have a goal. I thought about investing it, but really didn't think that through much. And I certainly didn't put it in anywhere that was fixed and like buying a property, which meant that I would have to hold on to it. I invested some money in shares, but you can quickly sell shares and spend that money. And that's eventually what I did. I built up this money and bought some shares, and then I did some other stuff, and then I stopped working in mines. I came back to Victoria. I spent some of that money. I spent most of it, nearly all of it, on stuff. I can't remember what it was now. But again, that was my identity. I never saw myself as actually accumulating wealth. It was just, come and go. My identity wasn't holding on to that. And that happened several times throughout my life, where, and I would accumulate a certain amount of money, and then I'd go and spend it on something or find some new thing that I wanted to do, and the money would go into that, and it never really built up. It was only recently then when I changed my thinking and my identity as, my identity was now, or is now, someone that accumulates wealth. That's who I see myself as. So automatically whenever money comes in to any, either myself or any of the entities that I control, a certain amount is put aside automatically. And I think part of that stemmed from, I remember reading about Bill Gates when he started um, Microsoft. And I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently his big concern was that the company was not going to, could go through a very lean time. And he was worried about not having enough money to support the employees. So he made sure that from the very beginning, there was always at least enough cash in the bank to support the wages for all the employees, whatever that was, for 12 months. Now, at the beginning of Microsoft, there wasn't many employees, so there wasn't a huge amount of money. But as they progressed, it kept holding on to that philosophy. That's my understanding. So they had a massive amount of cash in the bank. I think Apple's the same. It has a huge amount of cash in the bank, maybe for different reasons. But part of that philosophy, the identity is to have that cash in the bank. That was Microsoft's identity. We have enough cash in the bank to support employees for 12 months if we have to, if we don't have any revenue. And that sort of philosophy became my identity as well. Now, whenever money comes in, there's partnership businesses that I've got, we all agree that whatever money comes in, 10% of that just gets put aside as cash, and that's there to support whatever we might. There's sometimes it's used for investing, but it's very carefully used for investing. It's not money that can be just blown away, and that is that identity that we have for those companies and for myself. And that's where we come back to, this is the internal thermostat that we have for ourselves. That's your identity. Before, my internal thermostat wasn't that I had any cash at all. I just blew it. I just spent it because that's what I had set myself. And if I did build up some money, because I hadn't changed my identity to having and holding on to this money, I went and got rid of it. In a number of different ways. There was a variety of different ways that happened, and that can include, there was some partnership separations in there, which resulted in money going, and not thinking about the long-term consequences of being careful in who you choose as a partner was one of those factors. I believe, anyway, for me, it was not thinking through, okay, is this likely to be a secure relationship in the future? And now when I look back at some of those relationships, they were never going to be secure. They never were at the beginning. I just ignored it, which is another whole topic. But it's really important to think about this internal thermostat that you have, because you will unconsciously move towards that. And how I shifted that was two things I changed in the way I'm thinking. One of them, I didn't like the philosophy of spend less than you earn, because that it was really, I felt, in controlling in a way. I didn't like this whole budgeting of going, okay, I've got this much money and I've got to make that work with the expenses that I've got, and I just didn't like that philosophy. It just seemed like it was always, there's a ceiling on what I could do, and it was a restriction: spend less than you earn. And I thought about it, and I changed that, and I said, okay, actually, I'm going to earn more than I spend, which was interesting from a psychological point of view and an unconscious action point of view. And if you believe, from the perspective of other things that happen when you have a certain belief set, because when I changed it, and it wasn't just changing it consciously, I changed the thought process unconsciously. So I went from thinking spend less than I earn, which is really frustrating because I always had to budget, always had to make sure that there was that I was spending less than I earned, which was annoying because there's more things that I wanted than there was cash available. when I changed the philosophy, my philosophy, to earn more than I spend, I found ways and doors opened that hadn't, I was going to say hadn't been there, but they were always there, but I hadn't noticed them before. And a number of things would come my way where, when I needed extra money, things would come in, new clients would come in, I'd earn, my companies would earn extra money through the new clients or through a new deal, or something would happen, so that there was enough money for whatever needed to be spent. And so that became my identity, that I earn more than I spend, as opposed to spend less than I earn, which it does. It really sucks. I hate that philosophy. So I changed my identity to earn more than I spend. The other one that I changed in relation to money was I set myself up, and I repeated this over and over again till it sunk in unconsciously, is that I'm a massive money magnet. And that became my identity. Like, I just attract money easily. Um, and those two combined, earn more than I spend, and I'm a massive money magnet. They became my identity. I'm a massive money magnet. Well, it's not I am, but I earn more than I spend. Um, they became my identity. And as a result, things like your reticular activating system in your brain, which filters your reticular acting, because I'm a massive money magnet, all of a sudden I saw opportunities that I didn't see before. I earn more than I spend. Well, I want to spend this. I need to earn whatever it is. And little things happen in your unconscious that make it work. It's the same. It's like when you pick up a glass, you don't consciously think about every muscle that you move to pick up the glass. Similar sort of thing with other aspects of life. You don't have to consciously think about everything. You don't have to consciously know it. Unconsciously, parts of your brain work to make things happen. Your reticular activating system kicks in. You see things that you wouldn't have seen before. Opportunities that were right in front of you that you might have missed are now visible, and those things come into your life because your identity is that way. And it's not just money. It happens in all levels of success. Similar sort of thing from a health perspective. When I was, oh, well, it was probably 16, 17 years ago. I remember in a relationship, I was actually quite overweight at that time. That's how I saw myself. I ate and drank a lot. So I was quite overweight. And we went overseas and we went skiing. I remember skiing in Switzerland, and um, I remember, we get to the halfway through the day around lunchtime, and my legs are burning. They're like, oh my God, they're so hurt. They're burning. Like, I could feel the burn. And I was just tired and worn out. And so, we'd go off and do some other things for the rest of the day rather than skiing. And that's how I saw myself, as that behavior that led to that weight problem. And I wanted to change that. So what I did is I changed who I saw myself as. I changed my identity. I wasn't a person that ate and drank a lot. I changed my identity to I eat smaller portions. That's how I saw myself. So it wasn't a huge effort for me to make this change. And I didn't do any more exercise. I didn't exercise any. I barely exercised, to be honest. I certainly didn't go running or anything around that period of time, but I lost I think I lost about 20 kilos. And so we went skiing again, same thing, same mountain, Switzerland, in St. Moritz. And I noticed a massive difference in my ability to ski. Now, I said I wasn't fitter. I just lost a lot of weight because that's who I saw myself as. That was my identity. And so I just simply ate less. I still drank a bit, but I drank different things. I didn't drink beer so much. I drank a little bit more spirits. And as a result, I'd lost roughly 20 kilos. And then skiing was just dramatically different, dramatically different. I could ski all day, and because I wasn't carrying so much weight, it was much easier. My muscles were still, because I'm a relatively big guy, my muscles were still quite strong, and because I was carrying 20 kilos less, I wasn't getting the leg burn that I was getting before, and I could ski quite comfortably all day. And that happened again in another period. It was several years later. Um, Again, I'd let my sort of health go a little bit, because I let go. I wasn't really focusing on it, and it wasn't really how I saw myself. And a similar sort of thing in related to skiing locally here in Australia. Used to take my stepdaughters to the school snow sports, take my son to skiing, although his skiing turned out to be, when he was young, sent him to ski school, and he worked out very quickly that if he complained enough, they sent him inside to watch TV. So we'd always come back and find that he'd stopped, he wasn't skiing, he was sitting inside watching TV, so it became very expensive daycare. And that lasted for a couple of years, and then finally it clicked, and he really enjoyed it. But this particular year, a similar sort of thing. I hadn't been exercising, so I'd gone out to ski. I wasn't overweight, but my fitness had dropped a lot. So at the end of the day, I was quite tired. It was hard getting up the next day to go skiing, and it was a bit of a struggle. And I said, okay, I need to change this. I need to change how I'm thinking about this. And again, I didn't want to be doing lots and lots of exercise. So I thought, well, what can I do? And I discovered core strength exercises, because again, this was my identity. I wanted to be able to ski better, but I didn't want to be going really hard in exercising, going to the gym for 2 or 3 hours a day, or whatever, going extreme. I just wanted something that would be, I wouldn't say quick fix. I don't think it's a quick fix. I wanted a simple solution. And that's where I discovered core strength exercises. And so I discovered that probably about 3 months before we went the next ski. So that was skiing in that year. The following year, about 3 months before the season was start, I discovered these core strength exercises through a friend who was talking about it, and he mentioned that. So I started doing them, which literally the workout took 10 minutes. So in the morning, just did this 10-minute workout doing core strength exercises. That was it, strengthening my core, which, in practical terms, that just makes sense. Strengthening any foundation is going to have a flow-on effect to everywhere else. So I did that for 3 months, went skiing again, same token. I was like, I could ski all day, no problem. Get up the next morning feeling great. And all I had done was, for 3 months, 10 minutes, or it wasn't even every day, it was most days, of core strength exercises. And all of a sudden my health had changed. But the reason I was able to do that almost every day for 3 months was I changed my identity. It wasn't a struggle. I just woke up in the morning and did the exercises because that's who I saw myself as. And the result was tremendous. I was able to ski all day. That same thing again happened because just recently, I'm not the most flexible person on the planet. I've never been someone that did a lot of stretching, and certainly, touching my toes. I don't remember ever being able to touch my toes and keep my legs straight, sort of thing, as you lean forward and reach that. I've never never had that flexibility. I've never focused on having that flexibility. And so I started getting a sore lower back. And I think it was because of that flexibility, or lack thereof. So, and it became really quite painful. Wake up in the morning, it's very, very stiff, and it'd take a while moving around before I could actually do things. But even then, still bending over and things like that was quite difficult. And this is only just recently, not in this year that I'm making this recording. Although you're probably going to listen to it start 2023, this episode. But so earlier this year, 2022, my back was really sore. And again, I thought about it and was looking at what was going on in the core. I started doing the core strength exercise again because I'd stopped doing those, and I did a bit more research. And the whole flexibility thing is an issue. So I started. I found some back stretch exercises, and also just stretching to reach my toes. So literally sitting on the floor and leaning forward, wrap a towel around my feet so I can pull against it, and I just did that. But again, it wasn't an effort to do it. It was, okay, my identity is I am a person that gets up in the morning and does some stretches to help ease the pain in my back. And it was muscular pain, so that's different from joint pain. It's a whole different situation. So don't confuse the two. And certainly, if you do have any serious pain, go and get some professional advice as well. Don't be careful with these kind of things. Anyway, I did that, and my identity was in the morning. Most mornings, wasn't every morning, but most mornings, I get up and I still do it. I get up in the morning and I do these exercises, which with the core strength and the stretching exercises takes me about 15 to 18 minutes to do in the morning. Probably more closer to 15, I would say. So it's not hard. It's simple because I like things to be simple. I like results from efficient actions. And I noticed very quickly that all of a sudden this back pain that I was getting had diminished. It had reduced, and it's almost non-existent now. So I've noticed a massive difference. So both the combination of doing the core strength exercises and adding the stretching in, and as an update, I can almost touch my toes. Can't touch them yet. I got very close, but I can almost touch my toes. So I'll be touching my toes very soon, which is something I haven't done. I can't remember ever touching my toes. So even when I was a kid. So that's really exciting. I'm quite chuffed with that achievement. But it was come about because my identity, it wasn't a struggle to get up in the morning and do this. Like, oh my God, I got to do this stretching exercise. It's like, no, I'm a person that does this. This is my identity. This is who I am. And that's the part you really, as far as achieving a goal, when we think about it, another example, and this is going to come back to money, is, and you probably heard somewhere around the statistic, is it's around 85% of people that win the lottery are within 2 years are back to having the same level, if not worse, financial situation than before they won the lottery. How can that happen? How can you go from winning millions of dollars to being back to having nothing or worse? And it's linked to the identity that person has. The majority of people see themselves as someone that doesn't have money. So when they've got it, they throw it away. And at the start of this podcast, I talked about my examples of that, me going through that. And it's really important. You want to make sure that when you set a goal, that your identity is in alignment with that goal. So it's not about just setting the goal. It's about making sure that your identity, who you think you are, is aligned with the achievement of that goal. Because otherwise you'll get to a certain point, you'll self-sabotage and go back to where you were. And it becomes difficult, it becomes hard. But when your identity is that person, then all of a sudden it's not hard. It's easy. Like I said, getting up, me doing the core strength and the stretching exercise is not hard. It doesn't take motivation. It doesn't take willpower. None at all. That's just who I am. So I get up and I do that. Doesn't matter, and it's not that I need to motivate myself to feel it, because it's just who I am. And this is where, again, it's really, really important to think about how you set yourself up to achieve things. Really focus on your identity, not just the goal. The goal's one thing, but if your identity is not congruent with your goal, the goal achievement will be much more difficult. So focus more on setting up your identity to be the person that has already achieved the goal.
Thank you for being part of the Share.Care community and helping people around the world prosper. you're creating a bigger pie for everyone to share. The more people contributing to the world being a better place, the better the world becomes, for others and for you.